So I finally got around to playing Kenna the Bridge of Spirits, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this was the game that I was anticipating the most, and the main reason why I bought a PS5 and pre-ordered it day one to begin with compared to all of the other launch titles. And I finally went into my backlog and gave the game a chance after seeing the announcement of the sequel that was coming out that no one expected. So I had to get to this game right away, and I have to say this game surprised me more than I expected. At first glance, it looked like a simple, almost Pixar style adventure, but once you actually play it, it's something very different. And for those of you who don't know, Kenna was developed by Ember Labs. This studio, this is their first game, and this studio is traditionally not a video game studio. They are a commercial animation studio that made a lot of animations for potential projects, companies, and the fact is that this is their very first game, which honestly makes me like, wow, I'm even more impressed that they even pulled this off. Now, this is an action adventure game, and I know it's kind of weird having an action adventure game here on this channel, but I love the game so much and wanted to review it and put it on my RPG station because I had nowhere else to put it, so I wanted to put it here. But the action itself, the exploration, the combat, the light puzzle solving, all of this comes all together in a way that it makes it stand out. And for starters, the thing that stands out the most and the highlight of this game itself is the art style. It has that 2000 aesthetics, and I think that's the reason why it pulled me in from the very beginning. It's something that I guess you would hit that nostalgia hit, something that we don't see most of the time, especially in the AAA space where we have gone to the more realistic photorealism approach, and to see something artistically in this direction is just a breath of fresh air that I really respect and really enjoy. But because it looks very approachable, almost like it's meant to be a game for kids, it's honestly misleading. And because of that, once you get into it, this game doesn't hold your hand the way you might expect it to be. Now, without getting into any of the spoilers, Kenna's story is a lot more emotional and darker than it appears. Now, Kenna herself in the world of this game is once people pass away and they die, they cross over into the afterlife. But there are some spirits that just won't or refuse to or having issues, and this is where Kenna and her clan comes from. They are pretty much the spirit guides. They help these lost spirits to be able to confront whatever it is that's not allowing them to cross over to the other side. And Kenna's on a specific journey of her own, and now she encounters a situation to where she has to help the people of this lost village. Keep it in the longer lines of that, but this game really deals with topics of loss, regret, and unresolved spirits, and the game does a really good job of telling smaller, personal stories throughout the journey, and it's not overly complex, but it's effective. And when I say it's effective, by the time the game came to an end and the credits began to roll, I literally shed a tear. And games typically don't do that for me, or there's not a lot that actually does that, but this game actually pulled it off. Gameplay wise, this is where I started to really enjoy it, because this game clearly took inspiration from games like Zelda, and it makes sense because if you pay attention to Ember Labs, they actually made a fan movie trailer of the Majora's Mask, so it seems like they're obviously fans of Legend of Zelda, and you can see it in Kenna the Bridge of Spirits, because exploring areas, solving environmental puzzles, unlocking new abilities that open up the world is not revolutionary, but it's definitely well executed. And what's so beautiful about it is the location, the map itself. Despite how linear the game is very open, so you can be able to tackle the objectives or trying to solve the problems of the village itself as a spirit guide, as Kenna herself, at the pace that you want to explore it. So there's a lot to do, and the game is also a collectathon because there's a lot of treasures, goodies that you can collect to pretty much get that platinum if you're a person that likes to be a completionist and want to get that high ranking and get that platinum. And there's quite a few challenges that are pretty clever in this game to be able to get all the collectibles to find in Kenna the Bridge of Spirits, and the maps are extremely huge, and that's a plus. Now let's talk about the highlights of this game, these cute little guys known as the Rots. And at first glance, these little cute companions seem like they're not anything, but they actually play a big role in the gameplay itself. They help with puzzles, combat abilities, interacting with the environment, and honestly, they ended up being one of my favorite parts of the game. You can actually personalize them by giving them customizable hats, to give your little, I would say, your little legion of cute little buddies more personality as they traverse and follow you around. And you can actually interact with them as well. You can just sit down and you can be able to pet and play with them, which is also pretty cool. And also, while you're exploring, you can actually increase the health of Kenna herself by finding these meditation spots, which are very important because we are going to get into the combat, which is quite surprisingly actually really intuitive. Now, the combat. This is what's going to catch a lot of people off guard, because it most certainly caught me off guard. The combat in Kenna is not easy. You have dodging mechanics, parry mechanics, you can manage special abilities using the rots themselves, and you definitely have to pay attention and read enemy patterns. So there are no traditional healing items in this game, which we're going to talk about. So mistakes matter. This game will humble you if you're not paying attention. And if you was a person that underestimated the game because of how it looks and you went straight into the highest difficulty, you might as well say that you're playing a Souls game. And I am not exaggerating. But the longer you play, the more you realize that there's more depth than you initially expect because of the different abilities. So in this game, the world is, or the environment itself in the village is plagued with, I would say, malice. It's this red orb that sits in the middle of this tree that turns everything like somewhat withered, black and white. It loses its saturation and color. And it's up for you as the spirit guide, Kenna, to pretty much restore that area. So you have to clear the enemies around the orb itself, around the malice. But here's the thing. The little guys that I mentioned, the rots, they play an essential role to your combat because she's only equipped with nerfed abilities. It's only when you have the rots that really increases her capabilities when it comes to combat. But when you first engage in the battle, you don't have any rots because the little guys are scared. So the goal is you have to build courage within the rots by defeating enemies with Kenna by herself being as nerfed as she is. And once you get that courage with the display of the courage meter, then the rots would join the battle. And this is where things get intense, because now you have to pick and choose when to use your rot abilities. When you go into the menu, you can learn different rot abilities based on the karma that you collected and the points, and you can put those points into the different skills. You can amplify her bombs, her arrows, and by amplifying them, you're throwing the rots on her abilities, which allows you to KO the enemies much faster. But once you use those abilities, you lose those courage points and you have to rebuild those courage points once again. So it's all about the strategy, knowing the patterns. And when I say that there's no healing items, there are no healing items. Each area that you progress through in the combat is that it provides a glowing flower, a blue flower that gives you healing abilities. But once you use that flower, that's it for that location. That's it for that battle. So you have to pick and choose when to recover. But in order to recover, you need rots in order to pull the orb off the flower. So you have to pick and choose when to use your courage points to use the rots. Do you want to heal, or do you want to do it to amplify your attacks? And certain enemies have weak points that you first have to uncover before you actually eliminate the enemy. Because of the parry system timing is so hard, and once you get the parry right, it becomes so satisfying. And there's enemies in this game that you can't kill them unless you parry to weaken them, and so parrying is very essential to this. So I just love the combat, and there's a lot to it, and this game can be downright frustrating if you don't get the combat down. So you can find yourself repeating certain areas over and over until you get it right, but the combat itself is just so damn engaging, and which makes you want to learn and actually get better at it. And I find other players finding weaknesses and defeating bosses way differently than I figured certain things out. So there's a lot of replayability and a lot to look forward to. So if you even want to increase that challenge, you can definitely play it on the hardest difficulty. So I give a lot of prop when it comes to how the battle works. I think that's really cool. So keep that in mind. And as Kenna, you really feel invested. You actually feel like a spirit guide. You want to help these people out. So as you clear these orbs, it brings life back to the village itself, and you can kindly just guide these spirits to the afterlife. So if you want to get that 100%, you actually have to restore the entire village. So all I can say is just good luck. Now, to be honest, the game isn't perfect. Some mechanics take time to fully click. The combat can feel punishing early on, and expectations based on the art style can throw people off. But once you get adjusted to what the game is trying to be, it starts to come together. So, there was always that discussion around this game when it released, especially around expectations versus reality. And I think it comes down to one thing: people expect one type of experience and got something else. And I think the detriment to this game is the art style, because people will not give this game a chance simply because of how the game looked. And I even got that from my own audience on my Mugen Lord channel and even on Twitter, where they said they just wouldn't touch the game because they just can't stand the style. And they're definitely missing out on such a beautiful gem of a game. But Kena Bridge of Spirits ended up being one of those games that stuck with me. And this is and I'm not exaggerating, this is a game of the generation for me. And there's not a lot of games that really peaked for me in this gaming generation, but Kena definitely did. And the fact is that we're actually getting a sequel to this game, I'm all for it. And I kindly suggest that you give this game a try. And it's definitely now been announced for the Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, the first game. So this is definitely a great pickup for you to actually give it a try and actually play it on the go. But other than that, I really love this game. I enjoyed it, and I give this game, me personally, a 9 out of 10. This game was definitely a 9 out of 10 for me, and this game definitely has a lot of replayability, even with the special game modes that it have, challenges, unlockable costumes for Kena. There's a lot here for a game that's only 5 hours. Yes, the game is 5 hours, but the game has a ton of playability and it's worth the price. At the time that I bought it was only $40. But definitely pick it up. It definitely needs to be part of your collection if you enjoy games that has that 2000s aesthetic of that era and the challenges that era games had presented and brought to the experience. So if you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button here on this channel, and stay tuned for more RPG news, discussion, and impressions from me. This is Mugen Lord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.